That's what matters. You want to say hi, Kyle, to everyone? Kyle will be your moderator today.
Hi, everyone. We were delayed because I was making a smoothie and the blender's loud.
Kyle's smoothie led us to this 4:04 start time. Start time not found. How are we doing today? Welcome to Vlog Thursday, number 200. I had to stare at that a second. That's a lot. That's a lot of numbers. Oh, I'm not going to, I was going to say, I got a picture of it. I don't have my overhead camera. It's in my office right now, so I was looking up for it. So I can switch to that view. That's Kyle's smoothie. That is not a kale smoothie. That has other things in it, like fruit and things that make smoothies good. So, all right. What are we going to do here? Where do we find that pie case? Now, the pie case is, and I tweeted this out, this was 3D printed. It is not finished. Matter of fact, it took, I don't want to publish it. Miles is working on it, and unfortunately, the case had to be modified a bit. So if I gave you the raw file, it won't fit properly. So modifications have been made. I'll try to find it and maybe I'll tweet a link out for it. So follow me on Twitter and I'll comment under this with the wrong one, but it's wrong, but you can fix it with a file to make it work. And I may do a video on this. It's just kind of convenient making some rack stuff. I'm working on, and that's why I have more things right here, some rack stuff. So I'm going to do a video on building out like a home lab because I'm building a home lab at home. I'm putting a rack at my house, and I thought it's a good time to cover all those little details and wiring and punching and blah, blah, blah. It's not completed yet, but it'll be completed this weekend. And of course, as you do it, then you film it, and away you go. So what do we got here? Yeah, I was going to assume you found it on a glass bed. Sure did. It is 3D printed. That's how I got our logo in it. Let's see here. There's a lot of cool pie stuff like that. Hello from Germany. Is it a goal for the UniFi controller update? Not yet. I tweeted out, though, that my friend Riley Chase, who owns HostiFi, and we do have an offer if you want to sign up for HostiFi down below. Anyways, Riley Chase is doing a lot of testing with it, has a lot of updates done. I want to make sure I cover how to update it and what those problems you will have are. And once I confirm that, and then I can do it in a video, then update. If you just want to update blindly, feel free. If you have problems, don't blame me. That's my attitude. Well, don't blame me anyways, because, I mean, not every update goes the same. Just because I updated and where my technical knowledge is and your technical knowledge may be in different places. Therefore, you may not know how to troubleshoot certain problems. So if you want to wait till I make a video where I talk about how to troubleshoot certain problems, then that's probably a better idea. If you are very familiar with troubleshooting the issues you may run into, then just go do it. I mean, what do you got to lose? Maybe a little bit of time. Do it on a Friday and go home. Let's see. We got all kinds of people here. Not blessed with a 3D printer. 3D printers are relatively cheap, but even if you're not blessed with a 3D printer or you don't have a good use case for it, personally, I would not own one. I don't have a use case. I barely know how to use a 3D printer. My staff uses them. But seeing as my staff uses them, they can make things. Tom is not smart about 3D printers. There are places online, though, and you can find companies that you can upload the file to. They will 3D print and ship you the thing that you want made. This is depending on, I mean, there's a point of no return, of course, where you have bought so many things from these places, you should buy a 3D printer. But if you're someone who just needs something once in a while printed, you can contact places and have it once in a while printed for your one-off needs. And it's probably more effective, and not to mention all the time it takes learning a 3D printer and understanding how to operate it. Not that they're overwhelmingly complicated, but you know, there's complexities to learning any new product or toy or fun thing like that. We got everyone from Istanbul to Texas. Oh, yeah. Snapshot clone, test on clone. What else do we have in here? VLANs are just networks. Yes, they are. Am I on 8.2? I will be this weekend. I'll probably get everything updated to the latest. I just didn't do it yet. Their updates go so well. I was testing it out when it was in beta with one of the machines I had here. I've not noticed any problems with it. I'll update my production machines over the weekend to it. Wireguard Followup. The Wireguard video seems to be going quite well and quite popular. And let's go and see how many views does Wireguard have. We'll look over here. Ooh, look. 7,000 people watch my Wireguard video. It's funny because someone complained it was too long, and I'm like, well, I actually went in depth to explain functionality of Wireguard, which is why it's a little bit longer. I also went in depth to explain the system and how you're turning on forwarding, et cetera, so you are turning it into a router so you can have your own. I may continue down doing a couple more videos about, Wireguard, running your own logless cloud server, because, well, Wireguard's not really logging anyways, but we can show you how to strip down things, basically follow that Wireguard video, turn off a few features, delete all the logs, and now you can have your own logless server, and hey, why not? So that may be another video that's coming if there's enough interest in it. Yes, and Untangle changed their license. You are not wrong. Michael Kerr, why can I ping the management interface on TP-Link switches? Flaw? Yes, it doesn't properly segment VLANs. If you buy a inexpensive switch, you get inexpensive flaws. It doesn't properly segment things. So I commented before when I did a video on a TP-Link one. I mean, if you're looking for basic to learn, cool. The last TP-Link, and I don't know if this has been fixed, it only worked over non-encrypted connections as well, which I thought was something interesting. The management interface only worked on port 80. It did not have an option, even with a self-signed certificate, when I had tested it. That may have changed to work with that. It's one of the problems with inexpensive switches. You don't expect security out of something that's super low budget. It's really hard to get security in some of those devices, and this is one of the reasons why it's a little bit better when it comes to going with some brand names on some things. Now, I'm not saying it can't be done, but it's not usually done. It's statistically less probable, not impossible. Yeah, the Untangle, though, let's look at that real quick, because I figured I'd bring it up real quick. Untangle licensing, Untangle Home Pro. Because they actually changed a couple things here. And I'm glad I didn't do my video yet, because this would have been like a huge wrong part, because this didn't exist until then. But basically we have Home Protect Basic at $50 a year. So they still have a $50 a year plan. It just doesn't have, what is it missing? I'll go here to buy. No, just scroll down. I think it's down here. Somewhere they got it. There we go. Here's the comparison chart. So you get 50 devices that you put under protection if you get the Home Pro Basic. And the other things that are missing is they have the intrusion prevention. The threat protection is not there, which is, it's okay. But one of the ones I think is funny that someone asked me about is the web cache. Why are people so obsessed with web caching? What am I missing? Most pages are dynamic. Your browser can cache them. Why are you trying to cache them at the firewall level? It seems impractical, and most websites don't cache because of the dynamic nature of their content. So you don't, like, a lot of it being encrypted, the only way to even get it to cache any part of it is it has to be a decrypted stream. And we'll use YouTube as an example. Just because you watch a video does not automatically cache it for someone else on the network, because a lot of that is, unless you've disabled it, it is served over quick with UDP, and the stream is not exactly easy just to reassemble and cache. So the big things that pull bandwidth on the network in 2020, any type of video service, which generally is going to not be served over a method that works for caching, there's your big issue. And what else are you doing? Like, I guess some ISO download, but is that something you really care about caching? That's just been a puzzle for me when it comes to the caching and things like that. Like, I don't know. not clear or understanding on that part as far as the caching and things like that. But they did change the licensing, so check that out, and I'll have to dive into that a little bit. I don't really look at the Netdata. I know when Netdata came out, I loaded it on there, but I don't use it. So it's pretty graphs. The only way I can phrase this is people starting out in tech love pretty graphs and stare at them all the time. People who are of gray hair and been working in tech for 25 plus years, we want actionable intelligence, not another pretty graph. So while Netdata provides really beautiful graphs, I do like it. I did a video on it because I know people really like it. Do I look at it? Not really, unless I'm trying to grab some actionable intelligence for what's going on. So it's something I really dig much into. So if you're having trouble with it, I do recommend hitting their forums if you're having trouble with the new version, and they're really responsive over there. Oh, let's see here. Try and keep up with everyone's Q&A here. What 4-port card do I find compatible? Go to my site and type in custom pfSense, and you'll find where I list which Intel 4-port card to use. I think I have a couple of videos on network cards and pfSense. I list the models and have links to them. Yeah. Your biggest bandwidth hog is pre-syncing OneDrive for customers, which once again, the way the encryption works on that, it's not going to, web caching will not help with that at all. Not to mention, it's probably pre-syncing not probably 10 computers, it's probably pre-syncing 1, but yeah, that's not going to help you. So web caching to me is just, I don't know why I get so many requests for it other than people's misunderstanding of thinking it's more useful than it is. That's probably my guess as to how that works. What else do we have in here? But TrueNAS. Now, it's running behind me, and I'm working on a long-term review of it. But I did the video on the TrueNAS system. I'm going to get logged in, and we'll... There we go. This system here and doing all the snapshots, there are constantly confusion around these. I am getting around doing more videos on TrueNAS. Right now, I left it intact. Matter of fact, now all the data is there, but there's 0.1 bytes. 0.1. That's a really tiny number of how much data a snapshot uses. I'm trying to find ways to reiterate that and make it clear to people of just how little data is needed in terms of the snapshots. It's one of those things that it's just not much. Right there under used is very small. I bring this up because when you're trying to do storage planning, this becomes a complicated topic, and it was one that's already had questions on it of where do I look? How much does the snapshot use? And because a snapshot cannot do file level backups or snapshots, it's doing block level. It only uses the differential in those blocks. So whatever you wrote to it is the cumulative change between snapshots. So if I delete 100 gigs, then 100 gigs is how much the snapshot uses. If I add 100 gigs, then the snapshot is still not any bigger. It's still part of the entire data set. I probably need to find a way to visualize this to make it clearer, because I think this is a challenge people have of wrapping their head around it, of when a snapshot holds data, which is essentially when data is deleted, but it does not get bigger when more data is added, because that's part of the main data set. The snapshot only holds data when you delete, because it has to hang on to it for its lifetime and whatever you set. You know, a week, 2 weeks, 3 weeks, however long you held that data, that snapshot only goes that far back. So I'm trying to think of some ways to better explain that. So hopefully that's something that makes sense. Is there going to be a video on version 8.2 of XCP-NG? Yes. There's first going to be a UniFi videos. I want to get that one out of the way. There's definitely going to be some more XCP-NG videos because I want to build some more stuff with it. I really want to build a Ryzen system with it, so that's on my to-do list, because just people ask, and if I put Ryzen in the video, it actually becomes more popular because people search for things built with Ryzen. So yes, there'll be videos on it. Not because I want to use a Ryzen more so than any other reason, then it'll make the video more popular if I build it with a Ryzen. But other people want to know, does it work with a Ryzen? And they've added, actually, with 8.2, they've added more processor support overall. So there's that. Let's see here. What do you prefer, pfSense or Untangle? It's all about the use case. What do I run at home? I run pfSense at home. Do I need filtering at home? No. That's why I run pfSense. If you need the enhanced filtering features of Untangle, run Untangle. It's to me, I keep it that simple. It's that filtering, and whether or not you need all that DPI information is whether or not you need the Untangle. Because some people say, well, why would I pay for Untangle when pfSense is free, blah, blah, blah. Okay, the reason why is the filtering features integration. Yep, Snapshot only keeps data that is changed or removed. That is correct. Let's see. Ryzen also has unsupported ECC RAM support, which makes it kind of intriguing for ZFS. The ZFS needing ECC is overrated. I've probably got a video on that. It is one of those arguments that's silly of, oh no, there'll be a bit flip, and if there's a bit flip in my RAM, it's going to write bad data to ZFS. That just doesn't occur. And the reason why is the ZFS system itself is copy on write, and it has its own checksum system. You cannot take bad data and write it out in ZFS, or it will fail the checksum. So if there was a bit flipped in memory, it would not cause a bit flip in the data because the checksum would no longer match. And that's provided the bit you flipped only affected data and didn't affect anything else. And the likelihood of a bit flip occurring in non-ECC memory and then being the cause of anything else, like not causing the system to crash, but somehow find something that didn't matter, that didn't need a checksum, didn't need an ECC checksum, and yeah, it's you're talking about like play the lottery and expect to win it every day for the next year, and now you've got the idea of just what the odds are of something like that happening. So, do you consider ZeroTier deprecated? Why would I consider it? It's actually a really good product. And what if 2 bits flipped? Yeah, same answer. Now it's even statistically less probable if 2 bits flipped. Hold on, let me close the door. I didn't know it was going to slam. They left the doors open when he left for this smoothie. No big deal. Or I didn't close them. They didn't get closed. So, yeah, ZeroTier is still popular. I don't know why you would think about it as a deprecated. Maybe you don't use it, so it's deprecated to you, but it is not deprecated to Tom. Because it still works. Matter of fact, hold on. I don't know what else I have open. Hey, look, there's Tom's ZeroTier right here. There's my IP address inside of ZeroTier. So I guess I don't consider it deprecated because I have my machine joined to it. What else do we have here? What's an ideal CPU to run TrueNAS from home? Really, anything that you can afford would probably be a better way to put it. You can run it on something power efficient. I mean, I don't know, but if you go to TrueNAS forums and then go to Will It FreeNAS, there's all kinds of build suggestions in there. And there's actually, his name eludes me, but there's a guy who does his low budget TrueNAS, FreeNAS previously, TrueNAS now build every year. He does this whole breakdown of parts, where to get them, et cetera, et cetera. I don't build as many. We usually end up buying servers. So it's great to build, and I want to do some build videos. It's just been busy about doing it. But whatever you can afford is probably the best answer. And it kind of depends on use case. If you can afford something expensive, but you're not going to use the horsepower from it, then it's kind of a waste. What changed my mind about going high tech at the new house? I don't really go high tech at home. I still don't. I posted pictures of the lights I added, for example, and no, they're not IoT. I don't mind pressing buttons to turn light switches on and off. People's fascination with IoT lights, great, have it. It's a fun hobby. I see people really obsessing over it, and I don't use them. So I don't know about really being high tech at my house. What would happen if you had bad RAM and ran a scrub? I've pulled the RAM out while running a scrub and watched ZFS survive it. And it's the same thing. Now, now this is if and has less to do with ECC and more to do with a crashing computer in general, which, by the way, here in 2020, we deal with a lot of technology. We deal with a ton of workstations. Matter of fact, proportionately, because there's usually a server at a company or, fewer servers in ratio to number of workstations. Do you know how often in 2020 bad memory is a problem? It's really not. It's just so rare to happen. So that's why focusing on ECC is the wrong way to focus. Now, if you have a crashy computer and you're running a scrub, and you're running a scrub on ZFS, and it keeps crashing, and you keep running the scrub, and you finally break all the data in it, yes, you could eventually corrupt it. But what's the likelihood of having bad RAM? It used to be a big deal. When I started out 25 years ago, memory errors were a thing. 25 years later, we've just gotten really good at manufacturing memory, and it's not where the problems occur. This thing has stuff running 24/7. You know what? This doesn't have ECC memory in it. Shocking, right? It's not that I'm saying ECC memory doesn't have a place. I'm just saying it's not the critical point that people think it is. It's old thinking. When do I plan to do TrueNAS Scale? When TrueNAS Scale comes out. So let me know when that is. It's published on their website sometime next year. That's the published date for those of you that don't want to Google it. For diving into FreeNAS builds, just either post in my forums. There's a bunch of people like to talk about it, or more specifically, go to the TrueNAS forums and post in their Will It FreeNAS video. There are tons and tons of people that love talking hardware and have lots of links for getting stuff. So. D-RAID and OpenZFS. Maybe I'll look at it. Bad motherboard components. They do occur, and they're usually, now, gaming systems are going to be a little bit different than consumer systems that we put in businesses. What you do with some of the gaming systems, I mean, you're using cutting edge, just came out hardware, trying to get the BIOS update to match, blah, blah, blah. You run into potentially more challenges with those. Most of the consumer stuff, like the mass deployed desktops by major brand companies, they're not pushed to the edge of overclocked at all. They are just built to be stable and run for a certain amount of life and lead their boring life of business documents and spreadsheets until they die and get thrown away. So they don't crash as much, so it's not as big of a deal on those. Yeah. Let's see. Can Zen Orchestra do automated backup integrity checks as a scheduled restore? The backups themselves are verified at time of creation. They don't get verified after, because that would be confusing. How do you, because the state of the VM would have changed, so there's not a way to verify them after. They're verified during to make sure that they're right. There's, if you read a couple of their blog posts on Zen Orchestra, they've updated the way they do integrity checking. They've enhanced it, including when they do the Delta backups, because Delta backups aren't just a backup. Delta backups are a chain of backups where you have to verify the integrity. They just did a rewrite and refactored the code on how they do the Delta backups to make the merge faster, to make essentially the pruning of the chain faster. That is part of the integrity rebuild that occurred on there. But if you want to test the backups, which I always do, I go through and randomly pick them, and maybe once a week I just try to restore a VM and see if it restores, because to me, that's the best way to do it. Now, you could script that as well. I just don't bother scripting it, because it's not that hard to do. But you could script it and set up a process that tries to restore it, and you just basically see if there's an error on the restore. Does it fully restore the VM? Then you'd have to boot the VM up. So if you're looking at, and this is something some of the more advanced backup tools like SolarWinds offers, is a way to spin it back up in the cloud, verify that it works, grab a screenshot of it, shut it down, and send you the screenshot. No, it doesn't have that level of automation. So hopefully that makes sense. Some people worry about deltas. If they're done properly, you don't have to worry about them. But you can also stagger your backups. You can do your deltas and you do your fulls. Matter of fact, that's an option now when you're inside of Zen Orchestra. Let me pull this up for you guys and show you when you're doing the backups and the deltas. Where'd it go? Get the page pulled up for you. When you're building out the backups, right here, full backup interval. And this is where you can set how often you want the full backups to occur. So Delta backup initial seed, and you can rebuild that seed at certain intervals if you need to. That's what that's about. So hopefully that makes sense. It's a good way to do it. That way they have an option where you can control it for those of you that are worried about the Delta chain getting corrupted or too long. One, I never keep my Delta chains longer than 3 because that just seems unnecessary. Plus, you can run concurrent backup schedules. You can have your deltas that run, for example, some of our deltas run hourly, but then we do full backup instances once a week. Just do the entire one. So there you have one backup set that are all full, and then the deltas because they're doing it every hour. And I never keep more than 3, though I have 3 hours I can roll back to. But then if for some reason there was a catastrophe, well, I could roll back to the main one. So it's a strategy that you come up with. Storage is relatively inexpensive compared to the cost of loss. So you buy some storage and land it on a TrueNAS box. That's what I do. Could you do a video on co-location setup? I'm curious what hardware you run and what your experience. I don't run a colo, so no. I'm not likely to do a video on a co-location because I don't run a co-location. I guess I get a lot of requests for videos for things I don't do. Sometimes one of the things that's always curiosity to me is how many people that really almost like get insistent that I should use a product and tag me in Twitter like, you should really do a review of this. I'm like, I just have zero interest in that product. We're using this product. Also, my reviews are based on my use of a product more than anything else because that's how you learn more about it. Like ConnectWise Control. We have so many things inside of it. People are like, you should review and throw in names of different remote control software. That's fine. We've been using ConnectWise Control for years, and it's one of the reasons it's on the top here, ScreenConnect/ConnectWise Control. We bought it 6 years ago when it was called ScreenConnect, and now it's called ConnectWise Control because ConnectWise bought it, and we've been using it for years. So my experience with it comes from 5 or 6 years of using it, and also, we have a lot of things in it, which is causing the pain that we're having because once you exceed, like, I don't know, 700 or 800 devices, as you go over that, it turns out that the ConnectWise control software doesn't like Linux. There's a problem with the mono framework that it runs on top of. So we're moving it and migrating it to a Windows server. I don't want to at all. I have zero interest in moving anything to Windows servers because it is now the only Windows system in our stack. But I have to do it because I want it to work. And as we keep scaling up, I don't really want to not run on-prem. So my home lab definitely focused on minimal power consumption because all it's on my home lab is one Plex system and it's all storage. There's really very little at my home. I'm just doing it for talking points, and I'll be referencing most of this what's back here, and I'll be talking about the hardware you use for it, like, you know, which kind of patch panels you should do and blah, blah, blah. So, yeah. Any thoughts on ARM ESXi? I don't have a use case for that. That's my thoughts on it. It seems like they did it to get themselves in the news. I haven't found a compelling, amazing use case to try to virtualize this. What makes more sense for something like this? Running, my friend Jay from Learn Linux TV has a video on how to do Kubernetes clusters with Raspberry Pis. To me, that makes sense. To me, what doesn't make sense is building in, other than for learning purposes, a bunch of ESXi stuff on here. Kind of doesn't feel is ideal. I don't know. Maybe I'm wrong. Maybe I just haven't seen the use case for this. It's like the guacamole thing. People keep asking about setting up Apache guacamole, and I don't have a use case for that either. I think it's a neat tool, but as I commented on someone who asked me about it, I'm like, why would you just not use X2Go? It seems easier, and it uses SSH, so you don't need an entire intermediary server to get things. I also don't think, but that's me. I don't have a use case. Doesn't mean you don't. I'm not saying not to use it. I'm just saying why Tom is not using it. Can you scale out ConnectWise? No. ConnectWise does not have, you'd have to buy too many licenses for it, so there is no scale out. It's not designed that way. That's not a thing. So that's cool that the latency's down to 2 seconds. I see someone commented about that. That's neat. But yeah, ConnectWise doesn't have, and I don't expect them ever to write something that scales out for that. I'm just not. The way their system works is not enough instances, and the fact that they built it on top of Mono inside of Linux. They built it differently for when they build it inside of Windows. It uses it's all .NET framework, and the .NET framework in Windows works better for the way they write it, and they just don't have any developers that are dedicated or probably have any interest in developing the Linux platform. They inherited us Linux people when they bought the company. So ConnectWise buys ScreenConnect. They rebranded to ConnectWise. They inherit all of us Linux people, and they don't know what to do with us because they're like, well, just wean them off of it by not providing updates. And don't provide much Linux support, and just kind of tell them, you should look at Windows, you should look at Windows. And eventually we all end up on Windows, and they end up with a single platform. So that's how that works. XCPNG and the Zen hypervisor doesn't work on Raspberry Pi. So there is a project to move over to it, like they're writing a hypervisor for it, which I think it's novel, but I mean, containerization, because it's lighter weight, to me, makes more sense on a Raspberry Pi. So containerization is so much lighter, and when you have already something that has a, much more limited resources than a larger server would have, you probably want to look at something lightweight. Full hypervisors, even loading them at the bare metal level, have a higher resource cost to virtualize. So, I mean, as these get faster, it makes maybe a little bit more sense, but I don't know what you're going to run on it, because this struggles running. This is a Raspberry Pi 4, by the way, that I keep playing with, and it runs a web browser, but it doesn't run it amazingly fast. And that's one of the first challenges you have with a Raspberry Pi, is they're not blazing fast devices that are really, you're going to surf the web and do all the same functionality you are at it. The limitations covered by him, ETA Prime, you probably have watched a couple of videos by ETA Prime. He does a great job of covering functionality of Raspberry Pis. A lot of great setup videos on that YouTube channel. That being said, you can really see the limitations of it. Now, add more limitations by putting a bare metal hypervisor on there and virtualizing what little processing power these have out, and yeah, you can see where I'm not the most excited about it. Synology versus TrueNAS. Google my channel. I have a video on that. No need to answer it here. Is there something you find missing in a SolarWinds remote package? Yes, ease of use. But that we have, anyone on our MSP platform is inside of SolarWinds. Not everybody in our MSP platform is on ConnectWise control. Our delineation between that is we put other machines inside of ConnectWise control because we know ConnectWise control there's more limitations in terms of speed and power. And while it's really convenient and it does work well in Linux, which is obviously a big problem with the SolarWinds remote one, it doesn't work in Linux, so I have to spin up a Windows VM if I have to remote into something. So it's minor and convenient, but some computers we don't have to frequently access. Also, ConnectWise Control is our one-off support tool. Outside of my MSP business, we do contract work. So if I am contracted to repair a group of machines or some project I have to do for a particular customer, we will load not our MSP tools at all, nothing from SolarWinds. We're just going to load ConnectWise Control on those computers to help complete the project. And then when we're done, we'll destroy that group of installs because we don't need them anymore. So it's more about project base. That's probably the best way to do it. "48 drives is not a company, but 45 drives is." Versus TrueNAS. Run TrueNAS on a 45 drives if it makes you happy. "What about when real ARM servers become more common?" Well, when that day comes, we'll deal with that day. That day's not November 2020. So, what type of internet connection do we run at the office? I think we have a 250/20, 250/10, 250/20 sounds right. 250/20. I'm spitballing here. It could be a 300. I could be wrong. I forgot. Somewhere around there. These are not things I think about a lot, as you can tell. Did I do a video on the Flex Mini? Yes. We have cable internet. $220, $221, whatever it takes. Yep. I've been testing out Security Onion. That's the SIM tool of choice right now. It's pretty slick. I'm working on the 2.0 version. I don't know when a video is coming on that. It's one of those things that's so complex. It's hard to do it's not easy to do a video on it because of the complexities of it. So. Not impossible, just one of those things that's, I got to find the time to really sit down and do it. The hours that would go into a video like that, so. Yep. Yeah, the Flex Mini is pretty slick. How does Wireguard run on Raspberry Pi 4? I don't know. I'm curious how it runs, but I will tell you it's not going to run as fast as it will on an x86 system, so. Do we back up over that? Yes, but see, all of my servers are Linux, which means they're small and easy to back up. They're just not, it's not a bandwidth impairment. Linux is so much lighter weight. One of the things that I've noticed too, matter of fact, I'll look this up real quick for people because I'm curious just how much is in here. So let me open up my invoicing system here. And I know there's over 6,000 customers in there. And invoice number 25,300 something just went out. So we just sent out there's like 25,000 invoices in our system roughly. And the database is so small, it's impressive. And this is just because we're not running a SQL database. We're running a MySQL instance with Invoice Ninja. It is so much smaller and lighter weight to run Linux services compared to running Windows services. So that being said, backing up all my data is not hard at all. It's so much, even though we have that much data, 25,000 invoices with 6,000 customers in a database with all kinds of detail in it, once you compress it down, it's actually really, really small and not a big deal at all. Then we have a client that has similar number of clients, and it's a carpet database. It is huge and giant and a behemoth and requires substantial processor power to run because it's a poorly written Microsoft-based database. Now, you can write Microsoft databases more efficient, but I don't see them very often. I mostly see horribly, poorly written database tools that use Microsoft at the back end that are just not designed in any optimal way. So their answer is keep throwing faster hardware with like 64 gigs of RAM. And like, what does this thing do? You're like, oh, you know, it just crunches some numbers and looks up databases. QuickBooks, I'm looking at you, man. QuickBooks, it's a stupid accounting program. My accounting program, with all the transactions for years and years, fits nicely onto my laptop. QuickBooks would make my laptop come to an absolute crawl with the same amount of data in it. So I just don't think QuickBooks is very efficiently written. What else do we have for questions in here? I like ranting about tech stuff. I think that's what these sometimes turn in. QuickBooks on-prem installed is horrible. Yes. We have customers that use it. It's just a mess. No, we don't put out there any of our stuff. You can find other templates for all the MSP stuff. Just go search for them and customize them. Why can't TrueNAS? That's a development question. Head over to development and ask the devs there why they've designed it the way they did. Actually, SQL running on Linux, because it was implemented properly. Let me pull this up for you guys. So this does work, and this is SQL efficiently running on a Linux system. This is Bitwarden's backend runs SQL, and because of that, it's actually able to run things. It's running it in a Docker container, and there you go. There's some of the server stuff, app stuff. Somewhere in here, you'll find the SQL things. Yeah, right there's my SQL server. And notice how it's just not chewing up all the data to run. It's one of those things. SQL Server is provided you built around it, and if folks at Bitwarden did it right, they do integrate their native backend with SQL. Now, there is a fork of Bitwarden that doesn't use SQL. So for those of you that are purists and don't want a Bitwarden running SQL, yes, a version exists that doesn't. It gets brought up all the time. I don't use that. I buy the official Bitwarden product, and I pay for it because I have a commercial license with Bitwarden for the usage. So, but yes, it actually does. It is an efficient implementation of SQL. So that's no, it's Microsoft SQL Server running inside of Bitwarden here. So that is Microsoft SQL. Is it? Yeah, MS SQL, not MS. There's one extra S in there. That extra S is, make it bigger so everyone can see it. Now it's wrapping. So we'll do this. There you go. That's Microsoft SQL Server. Whoops. Troubleshooting SQL Server. See, that is the SQL Server running. But it works. So there's that. Anyways. MySQL MariaDB. Hey, I've been around a long time. Yes, MariaDB, whatever you call it. Yes, this is the Microsoft server natively running in Linux. That's what this is right here. Please note this is a Linux server that runs Bitwarden, hence its name, and that is Microsoft SQL Server, not MariaDB. Microsoft running inside of here. So, yes. Yeah, the V2 in Security Onion's pretty slick. So for those of you wondering about if you want to dig into some weird esoteric history of Tom, I was one of the people on stage at Microsoft in 2017 when they announced Microsoft SQL Server, and I interviewed the people who released it. If you go through and dig around Microsoft's, I wonder if I can find the video for this. I think it got posted online. So let me, our Microsoft SQL. Somewhere I can find this. Maybe. I may look on YouTube. Wonder, I don't know where this video is now. I don't know where it lives. Got to find the wide angle and find Tom. That's me in the middle. Let me move my head here. So that's me in the middle, hanging out with the people at Microsoft, literally at the Ignite event. Make myself real small here. So, and I was there. See, so for those of you wondering about this, so it's Mary Tomich and Travis Wright, Tony Bemis, and John JG. They were all people there, and we were talking about the release of the Microsoft SQL Server and diving into the details on it. So, yep, this little trivia piece. So I'm very aware of it, I guess you could say. I was there, man, back when they did it, and I had a fun discussion. I also interviewed Jeffrey Snover and a handful of other people, all on Microsoft. So, yes, I've been to the belly of the beast, as much as I make fun of Microsoft. What else do we have here? People asking me about Apple devices. I am the wrong person to ask about Apple devices because I don't use them. Yeah, it's the first reaction to people. Everyone's too close together. Actually, that's been my reaction my whole life. Everyone's too close to me. Let's see. Yeah, I mean, any software you have, whatever it is, whatever database software, if it's not written properly, it will break. Good coding is important. That's as simple as that. So they need good coding. If you write it bad, I just know because there were so many developers in the early days that ran Microsoft stuff that lots of things were broken inside the Microsoft world because there was a lot of poor developers would start writing a product, the product would get big, and no one ever wanted to take the time to refactor the code. I was there, sounds like Woodstock. Yes, there's kind of a reference to that. It's way better, it's way more fun to write bad software, and or at least easy. It's been an issue as long as I've been in tech. There's been people writing bad software. As frameworks have gotten bigger and made it easier to bring people into the fray of programming, and they understand less of the fundamentals, there's the ability to write even worse programs that people don't understand how a lot of it worked because they just started with large blocks of code to build frameworks, and they end up building a product with lots of unnecessary cruff inside of it. So, yes. Fun stuff. Yes, the big F word in programming is framework. Let's see. What else? I'm winding it down because I have to finish migrating some ScreenConnect stuff. What else do we have? Currently, broadband service is connecting a PoE into a Ubiquity switch. Okay. Did I start out in a garage? I did not. Not Fortran. Yeah, the Microsoft Windows is so much legacy code that has been dragged with it over the years that it's naturally bloated is the best way I can describe it. So, COBOL. Yes, I did do some COBOL. I was never big into programming, but I did do COBOL is what I learned in school. That's what they taught back in the 90s when I was there. I took a class that covered some programming languages. COBOL was included. I did Pascal, Turbo Pascal. I never did assembler. I programmed when I was really young, but never been a career for me. UniFi industrial switch, I don't think I've done a video on it. Chris has. We don't get a lot of requests for the industrial ones, so. NT, yes, the first version of NT I started on was some of the 3.5 stuff, and then moving into 4, and just before things started switching. So, yep. Single sign-on between AD and Office 365. Microsoft has single sign-on for AD and Office 365. I thought they have an integration for that. I have no certifications. I thought about doing a video on certifications. I thought about getting a cert of some sort, because I don't have any. I don't know. It's on my to-do list. It's just not a high priority for me is the best way I could describe it. I did finish this. My lack of... Let me find these two images before I switch over. Actually, this is something my wife did, not me anyways. I did the wiring part. So this was this is my home entertainment system, and I had the hole in the wall there. And this is part of the finalizing because we had to wall fish a bunch of things. And I took a picture the other day. The hole's gone now, so that's all set up there. And yes, me and the wife both are Star Trek fans. So that's finished. And this is some of the stuff I'll cover. That is the things we did install. I wall fish and ran network cables. Matter of fact, I don't have a picture of it handy, but we put a whisker box in there and ran all the cables to keep them nice, neat, and clean. Things like that. That is what I will be doing a video on for some of the home stuff. But my wife did a good job of patching, because I hate doing that, and she patched it so you can't even see it. So that's bonus on that there. Doing that. Is there any other questions before I wind this stream down? That's my errata time. Yes, Klipsch. I went all Klipsch. Hey, thanks for the shout out that you love my content. It is appreciated. Nighthawk, I believe I see your name. No, there's no pfSense UniFi integration dashboard that I'm aware of. My wife puts the tree up. I do not. Yeah, I don't put trees up. Take a look at Karma for acoustic measurement. I don't really feel the need to measure things acoustically. They sound nice where they are. Bash the like button. That's what you need to do. There's 262 of you. There were more of you a minute ago, and you need to bash the like button. So bash the like button so I'll get around to doing this video where we talk about cabling and mounting and rack nuts and all those fun things and rack mounted Raspberry Pis. And bags of rack nuts. These things are cool. They'll be included in the video. All these the rack studs? I call them rack studs. So rack nuts, but they're rack studs. We talk about using all this stuff. You can never have enough. Yes. Get all my staff commenting in there. But I'll also cover why you should use, especially for your home lab. A home lab should always be built with modular instead of standard patch panels. I'll cover the reasons why for that in an upcoming video as well. That's all going to be part of the build out. So how to build your rack, what you should use, where to buy some wire, blah, blah, blah. Hands-on stuff. Yeah, I don't do enough of those videos because they take so long to do. So they're one of those things, like I like doing them, it's just a matter of time. As even as Chris said, Chris just posted a video about wiring his house. There's some of these videos when you start compiling a whole lot of it together. I have an old video I did a few years ago. I told Chris, I'm like, yeah, there's like 15 hours and 8 hours of editing all those video together to make it work. It's like you take a couple days just to edit the video sometimes, and it's just tedious. That's one of the reasons that, not everybody does it. Or when other people do it, they pop a camera on their head and just do it, and then you end up with like a 4-hour video. And maybe you're happy with that. I just like to make a more concise video for things. So, do I have a code for IT Pro TV? Yes, it is down below. So yeah, don't use someone else's. Really? You're going to post someone else's IT Pro TV offer? Why wouldn't you post Tom's? There we go. Miles got it. Use mine. Don't use someone else's. I don't have anything against if you want to use Network Chuck's. Maybe you like him better, but I like when people use my offer codes. It's okay though. I don't dislike people who don't. I'm just saying. Feel free. So yeah, they're part of our affiliate. We have a whole affiliates page that you can go to and look at everything. So yeah. Network Chuck. I don't watch Network Chuck, so I don't really know. Is he more technical? He's certainly more bearded than Tom. Tom can't grow a beard, so I don't know. You tell me. So I don't watch a ton of other tech channels because I mostly read technical stuff. Do you see y'all deploying some unified gateways since UDM and the coming firewalls? No, we do not deploy UDMs or USGs. Oh yeah, and I'm not a big you need to do this now person. I know he does that in his videos. You need to install a rack right now. That's really not... Hey, whatever, dude. Here's the fun part. If you don't like one person's style of teaching, go find another one. There's probably people who I've had people mad at me because I gave them a bunch of information but didn't tell them which product to choose at the end. I told them the merits of each product and a use case for each product, and someone says, your video wasn't useful because it didn't tell me exactly which one I should buy. And I'm like, you can't win. Someone else would have complained if I told you which one to buy without giving you the merits of why. I need to grow a beard and drink coffee now. Okay, we'll go with that. I think it's a good thing that more people are out there like Network Chuck that gets people excited about networking. In the big picture, as we get more people into network engineering, into technology, into getting out in the field, there's a lot of shortages of talent in the field. We need more people in cybersecurity. So if whatever inspires you to come along into this journey and join us in this field, awesome. We need more. So whatever the method that brings you in is not, to me, overly relevant. It's about that you come in, that you get educated in this market, that people who thought maybe this wasn't for them really try it out, because I think it's for more people than assumed. So, let's see. Yeah, spend way too much time on Reddit. Oh, I guess that's something else maybe I'll bring up. A few people asked me about that. I'll make a list of some of the subreddits I visit. There's cybersecurity ones and things like that. I'll probably do some videos about places I am at gathering knowledge. And I bring that up because that's a tricky thing to figure it out, and I posted them before in my forum, but it might be worthy of a video to talk about some of the good places you can learn a lot of that stuff. Like our sysadmin is definitely great, and I spend more time reading than I do posting, which is actually majority of my time is reading anyway, so it works out well. But it's how I gain knowledge. Like, hey Tom, how did you know that already happened? Or I have some commentary, and I'm like, 'cause I'm reading this every day. It's my hobby. Some people have a hobby of sports, and they can tell you statistics of all kinds of things that happened forever ago in sports. That's fine if that's your hobby. My hobby is the technology thing. So I dive deep and understand the history of a lot of different technologies, the players involved, so to speak, the people that run the companies. That is very interesting to me. So that's what I follow. And I follow the latest things and updates and security. So do I have customers in Europe? Yes. Yeah, I'm not changing from the pros and cons approach. I just think it's funny when I list pros and cons of two competitive products of why you'd want to use one and what use cases are for it, and people say, well, you didn't tell me which one to buy. I'm like, well, I don't know what your use case is. It's the same thing. There's a lot of people that commented on Wireguard versus OpenVPN. And I'm like, what do you mean? What's your use case? Well, I need a complete user manager. Then you should probably use OpenVPN. But I like Wireguard because it's fast. Okay, but you said you need a user manager. There's not a user manager in Wireguard. So what exactly? It's the same thing. I laid out the use case there, and the person goes, but I want to use it. Okay, but you can't because it doesn't have the features you want. So what exactly am I supposed to do? Do you ever need hands-on help in Europe? No, we do not. All the work we do in Europe is consulting work. Matter of fact, a huge amount of the work we do is consulting, so we don't, in terms of like the out-of-state type work, so we don't really need any buddy there. A lot of my business model is internal IT teams that need assistance with projects. They contact us, we help them with the project. So they already have people who can plug things in and get it up and running. We're not dealing with the on-site level because getting plugged in is pretty easy if you have some people there. And after it's all plugged in, configuring it is what our bread and butter is. Design, implementation, getting configured. That's a lot of our consulting work. So it's not really that we send people out there. What do you think about working remotely on pfSense and other technologies? I think it's something we do every day. So that's my thoughts on working remotely with pfSense and other technologies. It's my daily thing that we do here at the office every day. So I that's my thoughts on it. I don't know what more you're looking for. Virtualizing pfSense is fun for the lab. I don't like it in production. That's my opinion. You can have your own. I only use it for labbing things out. I prefer bare metal because, for example, and this is something we do. What if I'm helping someone with their hypervisor? If I try to restart the hypervisor, I would lose connection to the said person. And if the hypervisor didn't restart properly, they wouldn't have internet to try to troubleshoot problems with it. So bare metal works better in that case. But how do I get into a company from another country? The internet. We use the internet. It works really well for that. More specifically, look in the title. It says ScreenConnect. We use ScreenConnect to connect to people. That's why I use this product. I do consulting. We use ScreenConnect, and that's how we get into people's systems. Or people give us access via SSH. People can give us access via VPN. So I don't know how to not to. I mean, there's a ton of remote access tools for it. So maybe, sorry I couldn't help the smartass answer. Yeah, FreePBX HA is much more complicated. We run it on hardware now. We don't even run it virtualized anymore. So that's yeah, FreePBX HA system. My understanding is kind of broken. All right. Head over to my forums, forums.lawrencesystems.com, where you can ask questions and get a more in-depth answers on things. I'm reading some of these. It made me pause. So, do I use any open source SD-WAN implementations? ZeroTier. ZeroTier is a great open source SD-WAN implementation. So if you need more in-depth Q&A, head over to my forums. They are always much more in-depth than the answers I give here. So I can only go so far here. I type things out in a more articulate manner without all my ums and the iterative missteps of words that eventually lead to a sentence that I do. So forums, you'll find me more articulate. I actually take the time to make sure I spell everything right too. You can call me out if I don't, but I like using proper English when I type because it's more static. Of course, the video is relatively static, but a live video, I don't get to edit all this. I just kind of my way through it. But thank you, all of you. And when there was 300 of you, awesome. Now there's 245 of you, still awesome. Thank you for joining. I will see you around on the internet. Thanks.